Hi everyone, thanks for joining today's webinar, Protecting the Future, Investigating Child Exploitation Cases. My name is Julie O'Shea and I'm the Global Marketing Manager here at Black Bag. I'm excited to introduce our speakers today, Matt McFadden, Dr. Liam Owens, and Bruce Hunter. Matt McFadden is the Director of Training at Black Bag. After 17 years in law enforcement, Matt honorably retired as a police sergeant from the Clovis Police Department in California. For 13 years, Matt conducted digital forensic investigations and supervised their department's high-tech crime team. He has provided expert testimony in state and federal courts for digital evidence examined in child exploitation, murder cases, and other crimes. Matt holds several industry-recognized certifications in forensics and incident response. Dr. Liam Owens is the founder and CEO of Semantics 21. He acquired his knowledge in forensics over the course of 14 years, including a total of 7 at university, where he received first-class Bachelor of Science with honors in forensic computing and a PhD in computing science, both from Staffordshire University. His PhD research investigated intelligent software solutions for processing multimedia evidence seized in child sexual abuse investigations. Dr. Owens has significant work experience in the field of forensics, including working on the development of automated multimedia analysis solutions aimed at reducing the cost of digital forensic investigations. He has also taught forensics at Staffordshire University. Bruce Hunter's experience as a police officer with both the Toronto and Gulf Police Services Technological Crimes Child Exploitation Unit in Ontario gives him a unique background as a forensic analyst and instructor here at Black Bag. Bruce's experience during his 29 years as a police officer has included general investigations, sexual assault, child abuse, and gangs casework. He is also a certified expert in the Ontario Court of Justice and Superior Court. As one of our expert training instructors, his experience provides students with an innovative and rich learning environment. Thank you for joining today, everyone. And Matt, if you're ready, I will hand the reins over to you to get started.
All right, thank you, Julie. Glad to be here. Thankful to be working with 2 colleagues with this webinar that have, some experience working with police, experience working with child exploitation cases. Also thankful to be working with Black Bag, seeking these partnerships to work with these technology partners to get these tools into Blacklight to help the examiners out there in the field. My part of the presentation is going to be a smaller part related to image categorization and some expanded features. We have a prior webinar where we detailed this functionality, and there's some new ones here that we're excited about that we want to detail here. To talk about Image Analyzer, who we've partnered with to bring their technology into Blacklight to help. We spoke about their company in the prior one, but wanted to put up some information about their company and what they do. They're good at this, and that's why we want to partner with them. They are field tested, and they've implemented some really good technology that can be used that we'll be reviewing here. Jumping right to the categories, we'll talk about how the evidence is ingested and run in a second, and we'll show you a demo and stuff. But the categories that we have are listed before you. The ones that have an asterisk by them are the ones that have been added recently. So we have from alcohol, you'll hear the term CSA, CSAM, basically child sexual abuse media. We don't like the term child pornography. There's many reasons by it, and a lot of investigators and advocates in this industry will you'll hear the terms child sexual abuse media, more out of respect for the child victims. You'll see currency, documents, drugs, extremism, gambling, gore. There's identity and credit cards, and then some related that's detecting porn, swim underwear, and weapons. On the left side of the screen, you're seeing the Blacklight interface, which you'll see live in a little bit, but that's the image categorization sort menu that we'll cover here in a bit. We're excited about these new enhanced categories that will soon be released. The one that we're really excited about is the child sexual abuse media one. This has been trained under controlled supervision by Image Analyzer. It has been field tested, it is being field tested, and they're always taking feedback. Related to all these categories, they want this feedback so that we can rule in and rule out things as this learns. It's all assisted with artificial intelligence and how this is created. The really nice thing about the category related to child sexual abuse media is that it helps to identify content that is not known. And we have to back ourselves up to image identification back in the day. You know, your eye is going to validate everything. And, you know, before we would click an image view, gallery view, you name it, and we'd scan through these thumbnails of pictures and scan and find things, mark them, report on them, track them. And, you know, we've been assisted by maybe hash sets that help us find certain images, but there's limitations that if those images have been altered, then it's not going to find them. And we can only find with those items with what we already know or has been identified. This is kind of changing what we know and kind of altering the frontier here in the fact of this is artificial intelligence that has been trained to identify what it thinks and has learned is child sexual abuse media. So it's going to be able to go out there and find things that are not pre-identified series. You know, having worked these cases for 13 years, you come to learn the names of these series. You know them like the back of your hand. And that's, you know, good for the investigator to learn these, but the unidentified series are the ones that we need to, you know, boil up to the top here that we can get to and work with. These are also production cases if they're brand new. If you're able to identify production, you're going to get a much heftier sentence on a suspect producing this stuff. The last item here just to cover is a lot of people can fall into this. Some people are new to this field or unexposed to this field, and they believe that, oh, these are people and they just have these images and they're just trading them with other people. As an investigator in the field, having worked these cases, been in their homes and interviewed these people, I can say a substantial amount of them are progressing or have progressed and are hands-on offenders and victimizing children. So this crime needs to be taken very seriously, investigated very seriously in seeking these victims. In each case, we're given a potential chance to rescue children, to identify them, and to get them out of that harm. But it's very dependent on how we investigate this digital evidence. I used to stress I did not want to miss those clues that would lead to a rescue. With these images and all of these categories that we're supporting with this, you have to go back to the analysis techniques. The software will help you. It'll boil these things up to the top for you and tell you what it thinks it is, but we're going to have to identify with our eyes what we see it as it is. Obviously, we talked about before, it's not limited to known images. We get newly produced media. We run it on our cases and we review it. We are the examiners, we are the investigators, but it'll help get the information up, and I'll show that in the demonstration here shortly. You know, how can you use it? Process your current cases, process your existing cases, make sure you didn't miss anything. See if anything comes up that's flagged as a threat category. Obviously, we're going to use ourselves. We need to validate that because we're going to testify to our findings. And once you locate this stuff, look further. Don't just find the media and go, got it. You know, some cases there may be situations where that's all you need, but a lot of times we need to know where is this stuff stored. The name of it can bring indicators to how it was acquired or potentially what it is. And then what kind of files are we dealing with? Where are they stored? How have they been sourced? Things along that line. To throw out some cautions here, and this is something that I think we all need to be careful of because the examiners out there, we all know the stress of a case backlog. But I've been seeing a lot of push out there to clear your backlog, reduce your backlog. And that's good. I think that's an effort. But the big question that comes to my mind is, are you clearing your case log or are you investigating your case log? Because there's a big difference. And the first one of just clearing and reducing just to clear and reduce, To me, it implies that you're rushing unless you're implementing techniques that are going to ensure that it's efficiently and thoroughly processed and analyzed and investigated. You do not want to miss evidence. So really be sure you're investigating that backlog. Many people are relying on your case investigation, including child victims that may not be identified. But cautions here are, you don't get any results, don't stop there. Keep looking. Have multiple methods to assess this evidence. Have manners in which you can use different searching techniques to ensure that just because one searching technique didn't bring something up to indicate that it is potential evidence, use other methods out there. Be sure that you're peer reviewed. I mean, even as a senior examiner, I would want somebody looking at my work and telling me, hey, you might want to check here, or did you check this? Bouncing it off you, especially for newer analysts as well. They find their way. It can take a year or two sometimes until you're really starting to feel comfortable with tools and analysis methods. So be sure it's being peer reviewed. To be sure they're covering everything. And then, as I spoke before, don't just locate it, find where this stuff is, do date and time assessment, where was it stored, who had permissions and access to it, links. The screenshot below, you see the USM journal out of the NTFS file system that's going to help you track the file, potentially its history across the volume. There's many ways to try to track this down. So getting back to how do we work this, I've showed you the categories before, and this is just an evidence file that I've brought into Blacklight. When I bring it in, it's going to basically check through my dry space here and flag out in the center there. You see that I have my GPT header, GPT table, and things like that. On my right side are my ingestion options. I can choose them as you've seen custom, but the items related to the categorization, I need to indicate file signature analysis to light up or make the picture and video analysis available. I can select those to do video or pictures or both or none. But if I'm running them, I click the option or the and menu, and it's going to pop up the threat category selection. It's nice because I can select all or uncheck all right there at the bottom, or I can selectively go down and pick and choose which ones I want to run. And simply you click start from that point. And it's going to work on your evidence, and we're going to look at, this is the evidence status screen that's going to run in the background. I like the nice color-centric user interface here. It's going to tell me what has run with a green check mark, what I didn't run fully, like the hashes. You see I have a couple other options I could run, and what I haven't run with the gray run play button. So getting down in a demonstration now, I want to show you when your evidence is processed, it'll come back to the Blacklight screen, and I'm inside of my media, and pretty much this is the menu option that I was showing in that screenshot. And we come down here and we're going to see our threat categories. I'm going to demonstrate some. It's very simple. I select them and they load. And it's going to boil up a sort and bring these to the top of the higher percentage of what it's identified as the category that is here. So obviously going to skip these. We don't work on the live media, illegal to possess. Going down to the new currency one that we have. You can see it's working. It's finding things, but we're also getting some IDs in here, but why? And if you look at like dollar bills, it has faces embedded into a document type format. So that's what it's been trying to learn, and it's boiling these up as well. Documents. You can see it's identifying document images here, which is pretty good. Drugs, we find varying type of drugs. Showing gambling. In the gambling realm, we have pictures here that we're locating related to actual pictures, and then also some online images from web-based gambling. Go down here. I'm going to skip a few of these just out of respect and everything that may be shown, but going down here to weapons. And you can see it's identifying these pretty well. Now, one thing you can do is you can get an image, and I can click on the image, and you have your metadata field that's down here. I can also click metadata to view it. But if I scroll on down, I get the threat categories. And here they are listed, and you see I've got a 0% all the way down to weapons. and I end up being 100%. If I were to click on these, some of these may be 100%, some of them might drop down to an 80, 70, 60, 50 type threshold as I go. Related to this, what I can do is use a filter if I want to try to limit some of these items that I'm working on over here in the corner. What I can do is simply click the plus and go down to my threat category if I'm tracking the weapons one that I have loaded, and I can say, hey, give me the category is greater than, and do an 80%. And I can apply it. What it's going to do is kind of wipe out that 80% or 79% and lower. I'm going to get the 80% or higher view, and it can help me reduce some of the items that I'm looking through. So that's pretty much the basics of this. And again, we're going to identify it. We're going to investigate further. We're going to take these images. We're going to tag them, report on them, and potentially look further using the keyword of the name and path and source and all that information. So that's pretty much into mine. I'm going to turn it over with Semantics 21. My colleague Bruce Hunter and Dr. Liam is going to start talking here. But I want to put up a slide about his agency. I'm really excited to be working with his organization, and let these guys tell you about what's going on.
Thanks, Matt. So just a very quick introduction from me. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Liam Owens. I'm the founder and CEO of Semantics 21, as introduced earlier. For anyone that doesn't know about us, just a very quick introduction. We were founded in 2015, and we're committed to delivering the fastest state-of-the-art software for categorization and victim identification. A bold statement, but one which we've achieved so far to date. We're multi-award winning, including most recently, you may have heard, the 2019 Queen's Award for Enterprise and Innovation, and 2018 Staffordshire Chambers Awards for Science, Technology and Innovation. The Queen's Award being given the first time in anyone in this field, we're really, really proud of it, and it really does go towards the team's effort here in trying to tackle child sexual abuse material, and more than anything, trying to rescue more children, as Matt mentioned earlier. Our flagship product, which we're going to see a demonstration of shortly after Bruce's part, is the S21 Laser Eye Suite, which is used across the world for categorization, victim identification, and most importantly, again, the investigator welfare. There's loads of systems built in that are all about trying to protect those who are protecting us. So we'll mention some of those later. And then, as mentioned before, there's a little bit about my credentials here, working in the field of digital forensics, both from the academic side and the law enforcement. So I'll pass it over to Bruce.
Thanks, Liam. I want to echo Matt's earlier comments, and I also want to congratulate Dr. Owens and Semantics 21 for their many accomplishments. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and it's something that I'm very passionate about, which is the rescue and investigation of child exploitation cases. I think this is what he has done and what his company has done has been absolutely, truly remarkable. So from investigating my first indecent images case back in 1994, I've come to sort of understand that the attention to detail is extremely important. Child exploitation, indecent images investigations are often difficult to conduct. They tax examiners and investigators. Further adding to all of this is the inherent stresses of these investigations. The masses of data that need to be categorized. We used to think that a case with 100 gigabytes was a lot and was very difficult to investigate. Now that is nothing. It's almost a break when you get a case that's that small. Of course, there's also other issues that cause problems for investigators. Time limits imposed on the completion of the examination to get it before the court. And of course, more importantly, potentially identifying and rescuing child victims. Because identifying and rescuing child victims should always be your paramount thought when investigating child exploitation and indecent images investigations. Black Bag has partnered with Semantics 21, adding the ability to connect to a Semantics 21 database, either locally or remotely. And this occurs in Blacklight 2019 R2. Examiners can then export media files from Blacklight, having them pre-categorized for analysis on the Semantics 21 end user application that Dr. Owens is going to demonstrate a little later on. So what is pre-categorization? Using a known database set, in this case it's the Semantics 21 database set, the media files are exported and compared to the results within the database. Usually what a known database set is usually created by a jurisdiction, and they include files that match the relevant definitions of child exploitation or indecent images within their jurisdiction, such as known child exploitation, child nudity, adult pornography, or other files that are considered that are not considered contraband or relevant to the prosecution of the case. And of course, jurisdictions are free to add their own categories that can be used to identifying or potentially beneficial to the case in the prosecution of these offenses. So the purpose of pre-categorization is to reduce the workload on investigators and examiners by, first of all, identifying known media files that are considered exploitive, identifying media files that are not considered relevant to the case. These are usually OS-related media files, including icons and other media files. Then the known media files are flagged as such, leaving the investigator with a smaller number of unknown files that are required to be categorized, thus reducing the workload and speeding up the reporting process. Keep in mind, all investigators need to ensure that pre-categorized items match the requirements established within their jurisdiction. So the big thing here is check your work. And of course, always keep in mind, we need to rescue these victims. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate how to set up Blacklight to work with S21 and ensure that your S21 database is installed correctly and that you have the username and password and location of the database handy. So in this Blacklight case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the word manage at the very top. Manage is where Blacklight allows you to manage file signature analysis, hash sets, plugins, and in this case, we can see S21 listed directly below. If I click on S21, it's going to open up a window, and this window that's going to open up is going to allow me to manage my S21 MySQL connection. The database used by S21 or Semantics 21 is a MySQL database, and this can be connected either remotely or in this case we have set it up locally. And as you can see, we've got our MySQL server address. In this case, it's set as a local host. Below, I'm showing my MySQL login, which is root, and then the password. And at the very bottom, you will see that it is connected to the S21 database. If, for example, the database is not showing up, you can select the refresh list of MySQL databases. This should reach out, assuming you have put in the right credentials or have the right server address, it should refresh Blacklight to then display the S21 database. On the right-hand side, we have options, and this is where examiners can ignore certain categories within their analysis. The purposes of ignoring certain categories is to remove items from the actual export that do not match or do not meet the category, the threshold category that we would require for examination. So for example, all those icons, the trash bin or the recycle bin in Windows, Windows and Mac OS logos, et cetera, that would normally be not categorized as anything that is relevant to the case. You can remove those. So again, these categories are set by the jurisdiction, and the examiner can choose that category, for example, category 0, and say, I do not want to include these in my export package. If the examiner chooses to do so, that will reduce the number of images that are being exported, and as such makes the work on the end user who's using the Semantics 21 end user applications for categorization. It gives them less work to do. So we can see right here that we are connected to our S21 database. When I select OK, it will then allow me showing that I'm now connected to the S21 database. If I select evidence status in this blacklight view, I can then navigate over to known files. The known files section in here is where we can run our blacklight case against a set of hash sets. For example, I have run 4 of 5 hash sets in the EFI partition. I've already pre-run this hash set against this case. As you can see, I've run 5 out of 5 for these options. If I go down to the snapshot level number 2 and I select on this volume, you can see that in the hash sets, I've already run certain hash sets when I ran this case. At the very top, I have the S21 hash set, which I'm going to now select, which will then compare the data within this volume or partition to the hash values within Semantic 21 hash set. If I select this, Blacklight will start to run the process. As you can see, it's pending now. And once it's completed, you will see 5 of 5 evidence items that have been run against, or hash sets that have been run against these evidence items. Okay, so now it is completed and we've run 5 of 5 hash sets for this section. Generally speaking, what we would do here is we could go over to our media section, clicking on media. In this case, I'm going to choose combined, which is going to give me pictures, videos, and thumbnails all in one view. This allows me to choose everything. Now, keep in mind that certain operating systems, including Mac OS and Windows, will provide thumbnails that are not normally, may be very valuable in your cases. There have been lots of cases where numerous thumbnails have proven possession of child exploitation and indecent images, have proven that the possession of those cases in those cases. So that's something that we really need to be looking at. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the images in this view. And if I right click anywhere inside this view and select export data model, I can then choose S21. And what Blacklight does is it prepares the export to S21. Now the S21 export format has to be correct. Otherwise, S21 is not going to import this data correctly. Now, everything that is being exported with this includes those pre-categorized files that Matt has talked about that was run through Image Analyzer. So anything that is part of weapons or any of the other drugs or any of the other categories that we've seen are already included in this export. When Blacklight is prepared to export this file, you can export it out to a certain file in your desktop. I'm just going to select this S21 export folder that I've pre-created, and then I'm going to click export. Now that the export is completed, you can see the folder structure that is created by Blacklight that goes directly into S21. S21 will export the picture files as S21P and the video files as S21 movies, S21M. And if you open up each folder, you will see that the files are created and exported out along with a case volume XML report and a volume info plist or XML file. With this, it is then made available to the investigator either through a connected server or some other means, and they can then run this through the S21 data application. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Liam Owens, who will take us through using S21.
Thank you, Bruce. Firstly, I just wanted to mention from S21's part, we're really excited to partner with Blacklight. We know that they're a fantastic tool. We know they get phenomenal amounts of data back. And by working together, we can ensure that our mutual users that use fantastic abilities in Blacklight can then streamline and send that across to S21. We can handle the categorization and victim identification at a mass level. And then we're able to then send all that fantastic data and the data that we get back to Blacklight as well. So really, you know, everyone wins, especially the end users, the end investigators who are going to use two fantastic tools and merge them together. but we're really excited to see where this partnership goes, and really excited to see, you know, the possibilities in the future and how we can expand what we do even more. So, you know, thank you to the Blacklight team as well for having us. So looking forward to it. So hopefully everyone's able to see the screen. So we're now into S21. So Bruce has just created a export for S21. It may have pre-categorized information in it, may not. And then all that fantastic rich data from Blacklight as well. That could also include what Matt mentioned earlier, the AI. So as part of the partnership, the AI results are also sent into S21, and we're going to see how those look. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail in S21. I'm just going to purely show how the integration works. Of course, you can come and have a webinar with us or more information with us later, but let's just create a case. So all we do is set our user details as usual. We're going to create a working directory, which is where we're going to save our case evidence. So of course, it's in the images. This is just anything we need for our analysis at the minute. So if I put that right. Now, at this point, we're going to choose the XML, and we're going to go ahead and choose the XML provided by Bruce. So on my desktop, I should have the Blacklight XML. Here it is, his case file. Then we've got the S21M for movies and the S21P for pictures. We're going to use the pictures here. We'll just scroll to the very bottom, and we've got our XML file. Now, again, the benefit of using the Blacklight XML file means that all that fantastic rich data, date, times, original paths, some of the hashing they may have done, the AI, which is fantastic, and loads more data is going to be brought into S21. So it's going to really enhance the investigation. So we can choose this, and we can see it's been automatically recognized as a Blacklight XML. We can then choose our own file processing and analysis libraries. So again, just skimming through, we've got our hashing, so SHA-1 and PhotoDNA. We've got processing exit metadata, which is going to bring back all that fantastic device models and serials, more than anyone else we've found in the field, so give it a test. There's other options here, more advanced ones, including keyword and social media, skin percentage and color analysis to go and find images based on the amount of color in an image or a specific color. So for instance, you're looking for a victim with a pink nightie on, we can quickly look for that shade of pink. Our more advanced analysis libraries, the first one is what we've mentioned a few times, we call the intelligence database. Now, essentially, we allow users to quickly create an intelligence database that everyone can connect to and share all their content. It's completely optional. So if we don't choose this, all of our data just gets saved into that working directory, that image folder on the desktop. But if we do choose to share it, it means that every 3 minutes or whatever we choose in our settings, all of our data is sent to a central repository, our intelligence database kept at our local police force or organization. That means that literally, if someone else picks up another case and they're working on S21, everything is graded. If it's the same hash, it's graded for them. They can look up different victim details, victim identification aspects, offline maps, all this kind of stuff is all going to be included in that database. For the partnership, this means that Blacklight will be able to tap into that database and retrieve fantastic information such as that categorization. So that means that you could use the Blacklight and carry on using the reporting features that they have, along with all the categorization and the vid identification done in S21 to produce your report. So there's no more of this Blacklight having half the information, S21 having the other half. It's a fantastic partnership, which means that whether you want to do the complete report in S21 or the complete report in Blacklight, for instance, we share each other's information. It really is valuable. Moving on, we've got different AI, visual similarity, PhotoDNA similarity. We've got 2 Newty algorithms, our own, face detection, age recognition, facial recognition, object recognition. The list goes on, and there's even more inside. But for now, again, we're going to focus just on the integration. So we selected our Blacklight XML. Now, nothing you see here has been pre-processed in any way, simply just the export that's come through Blacklight. And we're going to hit Start Analysis. And you'll see that 37,000 files, okay, it's not a great amount, but they're going to be in even on this shop-brought PC in about 3 to 4 seconds. So here we're pushing over almost about 400,000 images in and ready to categorize per minute. So if I just move this out of the way, this is all background process, so you can see it's all running in the background. And every one of our images are already inside our analysis, all 1,127 pages, all 28,000 unique. If we look in our filters, we can see all 37,000, we've deduplicated them, we've identified the duplicates, the animations, we've identified the accessibility of the images, we've imported all the fantastic skin results as well, again, part of that fantastic partnership. We can process it ourselves, but if Blacklight are going to provide it to us, then we may as well use it. At the bottom, we can see our source devices. So if Blacklight provided 2, 3 different devices, then all these would be imported. Anything that's been labeled in Blacklight, we'd get a complete audit control, fantastic for the UK with ISO. Anything checked against our database would be shown here. And again, at the bottom, we have that fantastic set of Blacklight filters. So this is their AI, which Matt mentioned. We've got the alcohol, drugs, extremism. We can see all of our results here. Even better, if we check this little icon here, this little set of filters, we can then see a list of all the different Blacklight filters that we've got in here. And of course, the new ones have been added in. The user can simply then check to turn them on and then move the slider bar to increase or decrease the amount of confidence. So for instance, if they want to leave it quite generic, they might say 20% and above, or as Matt said, you may want to filter that down to maybe 80%, so you get more accurate hits, or the hits that are obviously more confident, so you can slide that up. And it's all done in real time, no extra processing, everything you're seeing here is all done. And again, on the partnership side, we can go ahead and just turn on the skin percentage. We can see here we just set to 70% skin percent. We can start moving through in real time, and we can do it all the way to the very, very end, like so. Now, in terms of categorization, it's very simple. We just go ahead and select, and we can categorize. We've got the Canadian label set up. Now, S21 also handles the labeling, which means that regardless of which jurisdictional boundary you're in, whether it's America or UK, everyone who has all their different categorization, everything's handled within S21, and then when we send that back to Blacklight, that's all handled as well. So it's sent back as a label 1, 2, etc., and then you can use it with your severity rating standards. So again, categorization, just simple select, shift selecting through. We can do that across pages. Really, really quick, really, really fast. And we've even got the ability to, for instance, the moment we categorize, just simply move everything off page. So if we do that, the moment we label, it's all moved off page. And we can even set short keys up like star. So I'm just pressing star, and it's just labeling everything as being legally held. And we can do that all the way through. We can do that for all our medias. Just go select defaults, and yeah. So we could say all of these images here, and we could just jump through like so, and jump to the end page. And then, for instance, let's say we review them all. We're going to go back and label everything in there as legally held. Now, if Bruce were now to take these results or check against the database, everything we've just labeled in these 32 pages, I know I very quickly skimmed through, but it's all labeled as legally held. So then Bruce will be able to go into Blacklight and just exclude all that media straight away. So the first thing you just saw there, and again, we don't really show too much in webinars, but the big thing there is the speed. S21 is the fastest way of bringing in and categorizing images and finding victims. Speed-wise, we're now pushing upwards of between 800,000 to 1 million images imported, ready to categorize per minute. It's just phenomenal speeds, absolutely phenomenal. It just means you get into your case quicker, you can find victims quicker, you can find whether the person's guilty or innocent quicker. That's what it's about. Quickly switching over to, oh sorry, just once you finish the images here, everything's already been uploaded to the intelligence database, and we can see this in the auto commit. But if we wanted to, we could just manually upload like so, and then that would send everything to the database. It would show any conflicts in the database, so we can go ahead and just override everything with ours, and then that's all done. So in the background, we've done all our processing, we've done labeling, we've gone to our case. We could then start using the victim ID and the AI. We could use the report generation, JSON generation, anything you wanted to. Quickly switching over to video. So all we're going to do once we open video here is we're going to create our working directory. We're going to import the XML file that's come from Blacklight. Okay, so from Laser IV, we have our video processing, and all we're going to do again in our working directory, we're going to go ahead and we're going to choose the video, and all this is going to do is create our working directory of a folder on the desktop. Again, choose an XML. We're going to choose the Blacklight file, which has been provided to us by Bruce. So the S21M for movies file at this time. And then we're going to go ahead and choose Start Analysis. Now, there's only a few files in there, there's 120 files, but they're in within a second. In the background, we've got some processing going on. So we've got the video length check and the accessibility check going on, but that's already finished. And you can see in there, we have all of our fantastic data that's been provided by Blacklight. So exported paths, names, original paths. We process the video sizes and our length ourselves. hash in, you can choose the accessibility, any flags that have come through or dates modified, etc. Like so. And then at the very end, we can then also see the results of all the backlight AI. So we could then, for instance, sort by drugs, and then we'd get the video with the highest confidence of having drugs in at the top to the furthest down as we slide down. Once you've done your categorization, what you'd then do is all your results have been uploaded to the S21 database, which is shown in the middle. That can then be pulled back by Blacklight and again pulled back up to S21. So essentially the S21 database sits in between our applications, allowing us to share all our data together. And of course, Blacklight have created that fantastic XML with so much data in there as well, which means that you're getting the maximum amount of your investigation, and S21's ingested every part of it to make sure all the report, the victim ID, the AI can maximize the use of it. In terms of S21, it's the tip of the iceberg we just mentioned there. We mentioned very briefly the speeds. We haven't gone into too much of the victim ID, but we've got so much in there, as you can see on screen, and reporting, collaborations, and 24/7 training. But in a nutshell, it means that through the partnership, we can process cases faster, eliminating backlogs. We can find and safeguard more victims faster, which we're really passionate about. Both companies extremely passionate about what we do here. And again, with S21, you've got a suite developed by yourselves. It's all investigator-led, investigators here, and all the feedback is what makes the tools great. So just quickly mention, there are so many undisclosed features, but of course on a public webinar, we don't show these, so please do get in contact and we can show a bit more. So I'm going to hand this back over to Bruce.
Thanks very much, Liam. So just like Dr. Owens said, as you can see, S21 or Semantics 21 is a very comprehensive tool for categorization and identification and the rescue of victims. Things have certainly progressed over the years. For those of us who've done this for quite a long time, remember using basic image viewers and a piece of paper, and you just simply mark down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and the numbers that you managed to get for child exploitation pictures and videos. This has just taken this to a complete different level. So like Dr. Owen said, once the data has been categorized, the results are automatically saved to the S21 hash database. Blacklight, we are still connected to that database, and we can confirm that by selecting the Manage S21 option. And in the Manage S21 option, you can see right here, we're still connected localhost. In this case, examples of localhost and the port. And you can see that we are connected to the S21 database. If I click OK, I can come back to my evidence status option. From here, under known files, I can rerun the S21 database extraction. So in this case, the pre or the post categorized hashes, so the ones that have been done by the investigator, have been uploaded to the S21 hash database. I'm now going to run it against Blacklight. So if I select this bottom one here, the one that has not been run against the post hash post categorization hashes, I can select S21, click OK, and that will run against the S21, the new updated hash set. That takes usually about a second or two to run against the case, depending, of course, on the size of your case. And then if I wanted to, I could then create a report from within Blacklight and showing the pictures within Blacklight. Now, this is not always necessary, because in many cases, the person who's conducting the analysis and the investigation of these files within S21 can generate the report directly within S21. However, in some cases, you may want to show or demonstrate those pictures and videos or those media files within Blacklight. So in this case, what we can do is we can select File Filter. And in the File Filter options within Blacklight, we have our familiar view that normally people are used to seeing within Blacklight. If I select where it says List All Files, this is going to show me the built-in filters that Blacklight has already created for us. One of those built-in filters is our hash set category. Hash set category is going to give me an option, an operator option here of is greater than, equals to, greater than or equal to, but in this case, we're going to select equals 1. Now, what we have done in our scenario is we have identified child exploitation images as category 1. Now, these are not child exploitation images because these images, obviously it's illegal to possess them. So what these are random pictures that we've identified with a label and been categorized with S21 and been given a category of category 1. Once we select filter, Blacklight will filter for that data, and as you can see, we quite quickly received results of 831 pictures and videos in this case. And as you can see, these files are all listed here. From here, I can tag all of these files and add these to a report. And don't forget some of Blacklight's more advanced features. One of the things that we can do within our tag is we can censor the picture within our report. If we censor the picture within our report, we are obviously not going to be distributing child exploitation or indecent images. So it's always very powerful to do that. Another thing I would always recommend is ensure that you have not selected export pictures or export files with report, because it will export a uncensored picture from the report, which is never a good thing when you're doing this type of investigation. The reason why you would want to create a report on this is to see further extended attributes, for example, MAC extended attributes that may not be captured within some tools. For example, spotlight information that Blacklight can quite easily do. This will give you complete end user experience. So basically what we've done is we've gone from a case where we have our child exploitation images within a volume on a computer. We have connected to the S21 database. What we've then done is run those hashes against our data. We've exported an S21 package that can be provided to an investigator to use the S21 end user application. That investigator has then done a complete categorization of all the pictures and videos in the case. Those files are automatically uploaded back to the S21 database. And then what we've done is we've rerun those hashes against our files with our finalized categories set against this case. And then now we've created a report within Blacklight to show all of those images. So it's a complete end-to-end child exploitation, indecent images process right from start to finish. With that, we have completed this section of the webinar, and I'm going to be handing this back to Julie.
Great, thank you. We have a few questions actually, so let's start with our first one, which is where can I learn about Semantics 21 and can I get a trial?
I can do that. So yeah, we'd be more than happy to help out. If you'd like to learn any more about Semantics 21, hopefully along with this webinar, you'll see our contact details. You can access the Semantics 21 website, or you can email us on info@semantics21.com. We'd be very happy to provide a detailed insight or quick insight, depending on what you need, in form of a webinar, live webinar, so you can ask questions and we can go through the undisclosed features and the more specialist features. And of course, we do offer complimentary training and assessment licenses and full support throughout as well. So please get in contact. Best way is to access our website, www.semantics21.com, and then drop us a message. Thank you.
Great. So when will these new categories be available?
Julie, I'll jump in. It's going to be with the next release of Blacklight, the 2019 R2, which should be coming your way soon.
Nice. Okay, so do I need to start my cases over to run the new categories?
I can look after that, Julie. I would always recommend when a new version of a forensic tool comes out that you would not necessarily just upgrade the case, that you would reprocess it. I think it makes it for a more accurate depiction of the data that's involved. In this case, I think it is more important because you are doing a much deeper dive and a heavier duty analysis into the actual application and the data within your case. Now, one thing that I would say is if you have not run the categories prior to the update coming out, you can then go ahead and just run those categories after the fact. If that's the case, if that's what you wish to do, then you can certainly do that. But if you've already run them, I would always recommend, just for a matter of completeness, to rerun the case with the new updated files.
That makes sense. So next question, if I pre-categorize my data, how is this going to help my cases and ultimately save me time?
Well, again, Julie, I think one of the things with pre-categorizing data is that you have to keep in mind is the more you use the tool, the better and more refined your database is going to become. As you can see, once Dr. Owens did the categorization, and once he did that, it automatically pushed that data back up to his database. That is the newest data that he would have received. As a result, you can then further reduce your work. I know when we went to pre-categorization, when I was still working with the police, when we went to pre-categorization, it started off maybe 30–40% less work, and then it gradually increased to 50–60%, where you were actually having to do far less categorization than what you would have had you not had this pre-categorization feature. But always remember, what's really, really important is you have to, like I said earlier, check your work. Because if you don't check your work, ultimately you are the one who's going to be testifying to this. You want to make sure that it's as accurate as possible. So again, even although pre-categorization is going to reduce your initial workload, you still have to ensure that what you've identified it as being a category that you've identified it as is exactly that category. You do not want to see something that's clearly a child exploitation picture being found in a set of pictures that is listed as not relevant to your case. So again, it will always do it, and the more you use this tool and these tools, the better your hash set will become.
Julie, and just to chime in with Bruce's wisdom there, it's being thorough, and these partnerships, I'm just excited about them, but it's taking it to the next step. What do you do next? How can you help these child victims? And it's even as far as, involving, the partnerships we have with Blacklight, but taking these images, and like within the United States, we work with the National Center of Missing Exploited Children, getting those clues to the people that can help put the puzzle together to rescue these kids if you're not doing it within your own agency. The focus here of the children, I know we get burdened with backlog and long hours and stuff, and that's where we're striving, working with Dr. Leon Ohms and with Semantics 21 and the image analyzer to bring these tools to help with all that, but we have to labor towards the rescue and protection of the children.
Thanks, Matt and Bruce. That was really helpful. So our last question we had come in, what do you see as one of the biggest challenges in victim ID?
Yeah, I can maybe jump into that from our side of things. So obviously from my exposure into law enforcement and working with law enforcement, and from this side as well, from the commercial side, it's very, very interesting side, really. There's so many challenges that police forces are running into, and Matt just touched on some of them. The backlogs out there, the mass amount of media out there, and hash data sets obviously only going so far. The victim ID is just a specialist arena, and it's one that we're really, really proud to be embedded in and really hopefully able to make our mark in. Being able to try and use computers and technology to intelligently, hence the semantics, to actually try and reduce the burden of the caseload, but also go beyond what humans are able to do. Being able to search for faces over millions of images in minutes, which is not possible for us to do. Being able to quickly find nudity, being able to highlight, for instance, in S21, an object in the room, a piece of wallpaper, a birthmark, and allowing the AI to go and find more images that have that content in. So for us, I mean, from our perspective here, I see the biggest challenges really from an investigative point certainly is the caseload and management maybe wanting to try and get cases through, which is completely understandable, and reduce time, especially over here in the UK. We're having a lot of budget issues and Brexit and everything else about going into that. But from a commercial perspective, about being able to get AI that's not only, well, in what I call feasible, it has to be quick enough, but it has to be accurate. And I think that's a danger that some can fall into, that if it's not quick enough or it's not accurate enough, then it becomes a problem. But for finding victims, we need to think like an investigator. We need to look at birthmarks, look at branding on a piece of clothing, look at a face, look at a room, and try and work out where they are. There's so much more to a picture than what we see. There's a location, there's an identity in everyone. So I think it's a really difficult one, a balancing act of spending enough time trying to find that victim, but also not, satisfying the management.
And exactly, great points. Great points there. Some of the things I think that we talk about is exactly what Dr. Owens said, is the fact that just simply a very small piece of information that's on a picture or video may lead to the rescue of that child. So again, it's a matter of having almost like a dedicated team to do this would be ideal. But we all live in the real world, and we don't always have the budgets to have a dedicated team. That's where tools, and you can use AI and other tools in order to help assist in this situation, be very, very will certainly get you to that point where you can rescue that child. And that's really important, because that is, after all, the sort of end game to this. We have to realize that every time a picture or video is viewed of a child, that it's almost like that child is being abused over and over again. And especially when that is traded on the internet or traded on some sort of media platform, that child is being abused again and again. To stop that abuse is to, first of all, identify that child so that no further abuse could be found against that child, and also to stop other people from disseminating that picture or video to other users. So again, it's a two-pronged approach that we need to have to potentially rescue these children. This takes money, this takes time, and this takes a lot of training. And again, I can't emphasize that one enough, that the training involved in this is exceptional, and using the proper tools to get your job done is really important.
And Julie, just to add on, I mean, the wisdom of Dr. Owen and Bruce is really good, and these things are challenging, and that it kind of circles back to what we're doing here. You got to work together. One examiner behind a computer, you can do so much work and so much progress, but working together with other people, partnering, like we are with Semantics 21 and Image Analyzer, using your resources. I mentioned the National Center for Missing Exploited Children, the National Association to Protect Children, things like Project Vic, the International Center for Missing Exploited Children. There's so much out there that can help you towards this. And to the investigators out there in my 13 years of child cases, like Bruce said, be thorough and definitely dig into this stuff, because it's amazing what a difference you can make in a child's life when you get a rescue. And it's just, it's amazing. In some cases you think, oh, it's not going to happen on this one. One case sample we had over 60 rescues in one case. Didn't see that coming, but with the help of a bunch of colleagues, the work was accomplished. And you can't describe anything better than that of something to serve.
Yeah, I think, sorry, Matt, just jump on the tagline on that. I think you hit the nail on the head. I always normally use the analogy, and I forgot it this time, apologies, of we're all just puzzle pieces, and by technologies like Blacklight and S21 working together, we can make sure we get more of the picture. And it's needed that we work with other people. we're all specialists in our own areas, and I think one tool that tries to do everything just can't. You know, we're all specialists. You know, my team are dedicated in the image and video arena and the categorization and the vid. Your teams do fantastic work in different areas, especially in the data recovery and the Macs and the Windows sides. So I think going back to Julie's question about the challenges, I think one of the biggest challenges, which I think has been realized by Blacklight and by S21 and the people we're working with, is we can't do it all ourselves, and we have to be able to work together, collaboratively, and share maximum data to make sure that end user gets the best case out of it, the end victim gets that safeguard in, and of course the end management, it's always going to come down to it, get those stats they require as well. So we're just all puzzle pieces that need to fit together to make that full picture.
Excellent. That's great feedback. And I think this was a great conversation today. So thank you, Bruce, Liam, and Matt, for really walking us through how to use Blacklight with the image analyzer and Semantics 21 integrations to make sure we are protecting children and really helping clear those case backlogs of these extremely important cases, as you demonstrated today. So thank you again. And for those watching, if you're interested in learning more about any of our products and services, please email sales@blackbagtech.com. And make sure you follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, which is at blackbagtech.com, and subscribe to our blog where we address a lot of these issues as well at blackbagtech.com. Thank you all again so much for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.